in, put him on his back. Thurston, right foot kick, down the ground, into the in goal almost. Hodgson cuts it off. Hodgson taken by Norton. He took him late. Marshall skips away. Marshall's still going. Marshall's got Richards coming up outside. Now inside. Richards pursued. He pushes Johnson away.
Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, the 18th of February, 2025, and you're back for another episode of the Tiger Town podcast with your hosts, Zach and Toby. Brought to you as always by Best On Ground Digital. Best On Ground Digital, the digital marketing agency that looks after the little guy. They will not steer you wrong. BestOnGroundDigital.com. Tobe, we're a game into the season. Well, not the season, but we're a game into the year.
Mate, we got our fix. We got a taste. That's we're still chasing the dragon, but we got a little taste of it. So I was it tied me over, but mate, we got another one coming. So just keep the gravy train rolling.
Coming up quick, isn't it? Friday evening.
Absolutely.
20-14, the West Tigers went down to the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Fair bit to talk about from the game, I guess, mate, but just your couple of quick little takeaways.
Very, very rusty, I felt. That's kind of why the trials are there. Sort of, swab away the cobwebs and get the game moving. But there was a few that stood out for me, and there was a few that I put a big X next to them. So I think we'll talk about that later on. But yeah, like so many people have said, there's only so much you can take from a trial, but particularly a trial that you're confident isn't going to be anywhere close to a full strength first grade side. So, yeah, it was just good to watch Tigers game and have a bit of a chat while we were watching. So, what about you? True. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I had feelings multiple times. It was weird watching football in February, as it always tends to be.
Yeah.
It's, I reckon we can kind of sum it up in one word, which is predictable. And predictable in that the game, I guess the selections are the sort of selections we've seen in the past, particularly in first trials. The way the game played out is often reasonably predictable as well in first trials. There's a lot of drop ball, there's often miscommunication, there's a few flashes of brilliance, there's a few concerns. So, yeah, I think it just played out like any old first trial, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, I think predictable is probably the best word to use there, like you said. I don't know. I kind of want to just dive, knee deep into it now. But before I do that, I like to sort of, I feel like we need to run through the other grades, the youth that were coming through. We did it last week and the week before. I think it's something that we're probably going to continue moving forward, just to wrap up, how everything is looking, when I think New South Wales Cup starts next week. So we'll obviously start kicking into that.
So without much further ado, ladies and gentlemen, get yourself ready for the weekly edition of Toby's Pathways Wrap-Up. Toby.
Oh, I like that. Can we keep that?
Mate, it's in. Let's go.
Fuck yeah, let's do that. So, and you're better at introducing it to me, so that's on you now. You have to introduce it every time.
Okay, mate. I got that covered.
So we'll start off with, and obviously I'm just reading this from the website, so just work our way down of what they've got listed. So we've got our under 19, so SG Ball, Western Suburbs went down to the Rabbitohs 22-40. This seems to be the running theme at the moment, that I keep getting surprised by a lot of this, but the Tigers SG Ball side, I think they're still undefeated.
So the Balmain SG Ball?
Balmain SG Ball, yep. Beats the Sea Eagles 32-22. So I think they're still undefeated, which is so surprising to me. I thought, West the Magpies side would probably be a lot stronger than the Balmain Tigers side.
And from that game too, I think from memory, Manly were up at half time and it was a fair little comeback and they came back over the top of them. And familiar name played in the opposition team, one Anthony Large. Scored himself a try and a line break at the least, and may have been a bit more later on in the game. Can't remember, but a good performance there by Balmain.
Well, again, it was without two of our spine players in Tannis and Haywood as well.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, so no, they're going well. Great start of the season from the Balmain SG ball side.
And I think I'm just reading it now, and this is I feel like doing these sort of wrap ups is teaching me more about the youth in the SG Ball Cup. I just love the head coach's name, and Shane Sultana. How good's that? I mean, just give him a box of them.
Something out of the weekend. I'm pretty sure it was out of the Balmain game. Some concern for Logan Brooks, the young gun fullback that we've pulled down from up in Queensland here. Not sure of the nature of the injury or whatnot. So if anybody else was local at the game or they've heard word as to how that was, feel free to jump on and leave a comment and give us a little addendum or a fact check there. It'd be good to see. And he's had a good start from what I hear, Logan. And so, yeah, it'd be a shame to see, injury put a dent in his season.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. And, if the boys from, I'm going to space on the pod's name at the moment. You know it better than I do.
West Tigers Faithful.
That's the one. I was going to say Fanatics. Sorry, boys. I stuffed that up. It's late at night and I've had a big day. If the boys listen to that, they obviously know a tremendous amount about the youth coming through and the juniors. So if you know anything about that, let us know. The Tashigale Cup, the West Tigers actually beat the Panthers 4-26. So that was out at Windsor. So out closer to the Panthers sort of territory, which is good.
Yeah, the girls.
And then we move on to the Harold Mats. I haven't really talked much about, I guess, the Laurie Daly Cup, but the MacArthur West Tigers did beat the Monaro Colts 30-22. And then again, we'll go to Harold Mats. The Western Suburb Magpies went down to the Bunnies 8-22. And the Harold Mats Balmain Tigers beat the Bulldogs 16-18 or 18-16 because we won. So just a bit of a wrap up of how the youth's doing, how the other grades are doing.
Yeah, very good.
And yeah, it's good to be kept across it all. Personally, for me, even if it's just for me, like if people skip this part of the podcast, cool. But for me, it's good to know, and it teaches me a little bit more about the upcoming youth as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's good stuff. It's good listen, mate. Cheers for getting that info out there. We might jump into this trial and start having a bit of a yarn about what we thought, overall and on a player-by-player basis, I guess. Mate, give me two positives and a negative if you can.
Oof.
I'll tell you what. I'll throw you a bone. I'll throw you a bone. We'll do one of each, one positive, one negative.
I think my positive was there was a couple of there was a few players that I was keen to see a bit more from that, and we'll go into that a bit later when we go through the team list and things like that, who did stand up and who have evolved. And I guess my negatives from that game is there is very clearly a few that no matter how much time we give them, they're just not first grade material. So that's my takeaways from that game.
Yep.
You?
Was that your positive or your negative?
Positive and negative. I just said
you combined it.
Some players are standing up. Some players are just an extra.
Okay. All right. My positive is going to be that we showed a capacity as a team, as a squad, to up the intensity later in the game, because the negative was that it wasn't there, and particularly in defence. And you got a little bit sick of me saying phrases like line speed and get off the line and that sort of stuff all
Stop
game.
catching them.
Yeah. And the collision to which we met to, it looked like we were in first and second gear the whole game. And so, yeah, the negative is, I guess, the intensity we started with. I guess the positive was that we brought some players into the game that were able to actually artificially up that intensity and get us some momentum in that game. So, yeah, I guess some ways like you, it was two sides of the coin. Mine was, just the intensity they showed up with.
Sorry for anyone that's watching on YouTube. My back just spasmed. I'm trying to fix it. Very weird.
Do you need to do the show lying down or something, mate?
Well, yeah. Can you buy me one of those lying desks? That'd be helpful.
Lying desk. I've heard of standing up. I thought you're supposed to be going the other way.
Yeah, no, this is a standing desk, but there are lying desks where, like, we don't need to go into that. We're a podcast about the West Tigers, not about ergonomics. So
Tangent Town podcast. Fullback Heath Mason. What'd you make of what Heath did?
I thought that he was strong. I thought that he returned the ball at times, with more oomph than our forward pack. I thought that I don't think he got enough ball out the back, and we'll go into Galvin a little bit later on, but I think he didn't get enough ball out the back to really create something. So from a playmaking or a ball playing perspective, didn't see enough, but that's more because of the limited amount of time he had to get that. Yep. But his returns were great, his positioning was great, and his defense was really good. So I think he was solid.
Yeah, I tend to agree. The game wasn't really going our way at that point, but he did his job for mine, particularly under that high ball. There was one instance where he didn't get to the high ball, but I think it was a bit of a scramble anyway. And I think with that breeze, it was deceptive. So, yeah, I was pretty pleased with what he did in what was limited opportunities, I think. He looked a little bit safer to me than what he did at times last year.
Yep. No, that's a good point. I agree.
Mate, Jarrell Skelton, for me, he was immense.
Huge.
Yeah. Exactly what we bought him for, we saw in his first couple of runs. Just a monster out of the backfield, no hesitation, big, heavy carry, and goes looking for work too.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to pull up, his running meters, because he was only in there for the first half. And so his running meters were this. So it wasn't huge. Our kick return meters was 68. And I think they kicked to him 3 times. So all his running meters, he was 124.
It doesn't show the minutes they played, but I reckon he played less than the first half. I don't reckon he even played out the first half.
No, I don't think he did at all. I wonder why that's saying 80, because he definitely didn't play the full game.
No, it says 80 for all of them.
Yeah.
So they didn't track minutes because it was a trial, obviously.
I think there were times he was caught a little bit flat-footed in defense, but he made up for it so much more in his returns. And that's why we were excited for him to come to the side. Was we've lost that. We lost, like, when Noffa was in his prime, he was so strong out of the backfield. He would run harder than most of our forwards every time. But then we all know what happened there. And, we haven't really had that for a while. We had it a little bit when we had Malachi Watene-Zelezniak. He was quite strong out of the backfield.
Yeah.
But, we haven't had it. Well, we haven't had it as good since we had Tuiaki, like 2 years ago. So
yeah. Pat Ridges did his best. No, I think, and he's more than just that too. I think people have alluded to the fact that he could play in the back row, and he 100% could as well.
Who does that remind you of?
Yeah, exactly. Depending on the situation. So, good prospect. We get to see him again this weekend, and he, so far, in that short little showing, is exactly what we were hoping he was going to be, and with the form he showed, Bulldogs and Pryor in rugby. Mate, I'm going to swing over to the other wing. I'm going to let you spit on your hands a bit and take the hatchet out of the leather, run the stone across the top of it, and hoist that axe up nice and high and hook into the tall timber that is Alex Lobb. Swing away, mate.
Oh, he's fucking soft. He's soft. Now, don't get me wrong. He could play rings around us at park footy, but that's park footy. He's not a first grade footballer. I don't even know if he's a New South. He might be a Ron Massey Cup footballer. He had one good moment, and that was that kick back in field for Mason to score. One good moment, but he almost bombed that as well. He is, for a bloke that's 6'4", probably weighs over 90 kilos. He runs like a weak 10-year-old. He is not what I want in our side. So in the list that we have, and I sent that to you after the game, for me, he's a no chance. No chance. The only way he gets a look in is if he's literally the last man standing.
So we'll put the lobster in the maybe pile. Is that what you're saying?
Now, we'll put the lobster in the fucking boiling water and cook him and shove him off.
Okay. Sorry, Alex. That's a no from Toby, but thanks for coming in. Better luck next year. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue with what you're saying. I think he gives his all from what you can tell on the football field, but I don't think he has that edge, that level of intensity. You need to go chasing contact and stuff like that. I think he's good in the air. He's a reasonable size, as you alluded to. He's an okay goal kicker, but yeah, there's quite a few ahead of him. I think it's safe to say.
He towers over Mason, and Mason would run him over every day of the week.
Yeah,
it's just you've got this. It's the thing that frustrates me is it's a very clear weakness. It's something that he clearly lacks, but it's something he can control and he can actually improve on. But he's not improving. It's the same thing as last year. He's not improving. You sit there and you say, you're okay under the high ball. Like, you're decent under a high ball. You can kind of goal kick at time, most of the time. We've seen you finish. We've seen you that. All you need to do now is run and not be scared of contact. Oh, I can't do that. Well, then don't play professional rugby league. Go play touch football.
I'll add as well that there was 2 tries scored directly from his side, from him choosing to jam in and not executing.
Oh, yeah.
They scored around the back of that. In situations where, and I made comment to you live early in the game, I think I said something along the lines of they're sliding quite well, and they weren't panicking. In the past, we'd get caught between 2 minds, and I know that it was all sorts of different players out there on the weekend, but they did that early quite well, I found, and after that, though, it just sort of went to pieces once he started jamming in unnecessarily, I thought. Absolutely.
And it was like, made all the wrong decisions. Very annoying.
So, mate, we'll go back to the centres then, and we'll come with a centre just inside Alex, who I thought defended better. He had one big boo-boo, but outside of that, I thought he was better. That's Fa'atape, obviously, and when I say better, I think defence last year was relatively awful. Tried his heart out, but a little bit of an improvement there. But on the attack side of the ball, mate, pretty solid.
Pretty solid. I think it's pretty clear he's not a passing centre. He likes to run and then do the odd flick here and there. And that's not a bad thing. Like, that definitely calls for that. But we already have one of those in Olam.
Yeah.
So
I will add that he looks fit.
Well, he has to. He got bloody reprimanded for not being fit.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying that he looks fit, which is a good sign. And he looks strong, and he didn't seem to get fatigued over the course of the game on the weekend. I think he played the full 80.
Yeah, I think he did.
Or
yeah.
pretty close
he was
to
on my list of one of those guys that didn't set the house on fire, but he was strong. He could do better. I think that, like you said, defensively, he's still got some lapses in his game. But yeah, I think he was one of our betters on the day.
I think he's improved a bit. And that's good. That's good enough for me for the moment.
Yep.
The other one, Josh Folletti. For me, Folletti was sort of a bit underwhelming, but I actually thought he did his job quite well. He and Skelton, I don't think they let in a try down their side.
No.
Or maybe the one. can't remember. There was just one break earlier in the game, but so I thought it was one of those games where he
That
wouldn't
was
have got
the
noticed.
overlap, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the games where I think that he wouldn't have got noticed that much. Wasn't in the game much on the attacking side of the ball, but I think that Josh did okay. He held his own. I don't have the actual stats on tackles versus missed. Where are we? I'll grab that. Tackle efficiency, 82%. So look, that's not too bad for a bloke who's young, has had defensive issues in the past, and is defending at centre, where, um, defensive efficiencies at centre, 85, 90 is probably more what you're aiming for as opposed to your mid-high 90s in the middle.
Hmm.
What'd you make of him?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think he just went largely unnoticed. Didn't set the world on fire. That's the word. That's the phrase I was looking for before. House on fire. That's a bit weird. Didn't set the world on fire. But again, I think he just did his job. He's an enigma to me. I wouldn't say I see a tremendous amount of improvement from him, but he also doesn't go backwards. So in terms of his skill level, in terms of his development. So
I thought he was
yeah.
defensively better. I thought his defence has improved from what I saw on the weekend.
If marginally, if that. He was the reason for that overlap that went down the side.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch it. Yeah, outside of that, though, like I said, no tries down their side, and they tended to cover pretty well outside of that one break.
Oh, he tried his hardest. There's no two ways about that.
I think Josh is worth persisting with on the right contract. It's positions 25 to 30 if we need centres, or New South Wales Cup contract, because I think he's a slow burn. It's very easy to forget that he's only just 20, I think. And in fact, he played a lot of footy with Latu.
Yeah, you mentioned that before.
So he may be even 19, 20 this year. So, look, centres aren't going to hit their straps, generally speaking, until they're, well into their 20s and fully mature physically. So, I don't know. What do you think? It's the right money.
I wouldn't. I like that's the thing. It'd have to be the right deal. I wouldn't pay overs for him because he's not worth it yet. That's not to say he's not going to be. I think you're 100% right. I think he's only been with us. I think this is his third year with us.
Yeah, he came across from Manly originally,
he came through from the SG ball, through all that jazz. So, he's still young and he's still got a lot of learning to do. And like you said, and like I said, he's not. I don't think he's not evolving. He's developing fast, but again, like you said, it's more of a slow burn, I think, with him, and maybe that's the right way to do it with him. I think the big question would be: does he want to wait? And probably not.
Yeah, so he is 20. Turned 20 in September last year. So he's only 20. I mean, he's a couple of years out of school age. He's been around for a while.
We can't all be Chrissy Lawrence.
No, exactly. Rowdy was one of a kind, favourite player of all time. But it's easy to forget that, he's only 20 years of age. I'm a bit distracted. I was trying to find how many games he'd played New South Wales Cup. It would be in there somewhere. It's just not on his West Tigers profile. That's okay. So, I think this year is a year of continuing to get more games at reserve grade level playing against men. And I see an upward trajectory for Josh. And I could see him as the type of player that would mature maybe, 23, 24, and then start to sort of break into first grade at that stage. But look, the crystal ball is as inaccurate as it is accurate. So we might move on from that.
What I will say is we were given shit to Alex Lobb. He ran for the second most meters in that game. So that's funny, but it's because he played more minutes than everyone else.
Yeah, he played a lot. And, playing at wing, you often get plenty of runs just with those either kick returns or with your second or third ruck. Mate, let's move into Lockie Galvin. Probably a little bit to talk about in that regard.
So I think Lockie was Lockie. I think he did what we expect him to. I think he hogged the ball way too much. I think that he didn't use his outside men anywhere near enough. I don't think he used Latu anywhere near enough. He called the shots, and that's fine. Like, that's probably what you would expect in the halves where he is the more experienced half. But that also shows where he is in his development of how much he hogged it. He's not a game manager yet. Very well could be. He's not a game manager. He's not somebody that will steer a ship when it's needed. He is somebody that plays off the cuff and creates those little moments. Like his kicks were deft touch. They were fantastic. But for him, I will be honest, I probably expected a little bit more than what he gave. I still think he was very good, but I thought he was still in the same mindset of last year. Didn't really think like he'd matured in terms of his football smarts. So, but that's, again, he's been training with Luai, and Luai is the chief playmaker. And so that's probably his game right now, is to find those little nuggets of gold in the defensive line and take advantage of that. The issue was he was trying to be the halfback as well.
Yeah, he's trying to do everything, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's frustrating because it's apparent that Latu, off the back of that, then if that wasn't game plan, I'm assuming that wasn't Benji's game plan. Just let Lockie take over. So that shows me, I guess, that Latu doesn't have as big a voice as Lachlan, and I guess, at least in that instance, wasn't able to override him or call for his fair share of the ball, because there were situations where, and I remember saying it out loud live to you from memory, situations where the wrong options were taken, the wrong sides were taken, ruck after ruck after ruck, off the back of breaks and half breaks. And a lot of those shots generally are called by the first half to arrive on the scene, so that might be a Galvin situation. But yeah, there was a lot of missed opportunities going Latu's side on a few occasions from memory.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's one of those situations where that it's probably what you'd expect to see from him in the year. So, because you'd expect Luai to be the one calling the shots. So, it's just how it is.
Yeah, well, that's true. And I don't know, sorry, excuse me, having a drink. I don't know if it's a case of him not taking it seriously. I can't imagine that would be the case. Good, it did in some ways kind of look like he was just there for a training drill. And so the fact
I could easily say that was the same case for quite a few of them there.
Yeah, I agree. And that's back to what I said earlier about them seeming as though they didn't get out of first and second gear. And I think that can be the danger going into trials, particularly first trials. You would think that the fringe players would be looking to put their best foot forward, but didn't seem to be the case for a few, fringe or otherwise,
Yeah.
So off the back of Galvin being probably a little bit too dominant, Latu, we're probably going to be a bit overcritical, but maybe the opposite side of the coin is what I was alluding to earlier about him not stepping up and taking his fair share of the ball. Now, I'll retract all that if that was the game plan, to let Lachlan sort of steer the team around, but I can't imagine with Latu having the 7 on his back that would have been the case.
No, I think, probably from looking at the game and looking at Latu, too quiet. So you had, again, like you said, there's both sides of the coin. There was Galvin, who was too dominant, didn't share as much as he should have. But then there was also Latu, who was too quiet, didn't demand the ball enough. And again, he's played, a handful of first grade games. You've got Galvin, who played all of the last season, basically. So, it's not surprising that one has his voice in a first grade side and one hasn't yet. But, yeah, I think only time will tell what tends to happen with these things.
Yeah, I don't think either one of them painted themselves in shame or anything, but it was just a case of they just both had sort of off games for different reasons. Lockie sort of over-dominated and overplayed his hand a bit, and he's probably not used to any of those combinations. So, we'll have that in his defence. And I guess, Latu just sort of sat back and didn't chase the game as much as we sort of hoped. So, that happens to the best of them, and they saddle up and go again this week with Latu on the bench. We'll get to that in a little bit, and Galvin obviously back in the halves. Mate, we might just get a bit of a foot on the pedal. Tim Johansson, now his statistics read quite well. Tim Johansson ran for over
152. 152 running meters.
Yeah, 152 running meters, and where are we?
100% tackle efficiency.
Yeah, 23 tackles at 100%. So on that, you would say, wow, Johansson, what a cracker of a game. Solid standing. But, mate, the eye test didn't really agree for me. What about you?
No, really didn't. I thought that he was weak in attack, didn't run with any purpose. Again, Mason ran harder than he did. But stats tell a different story. So were we too critical of him live? Don't know.
Yeah, I do agree. Terrible in contact, but thinking about it after the fact, and I do remember briefly having this thought when we were watching the game as well. I think that one or two things was happening. When he was on the field is when the Bulldogs were going hard on line speed. They had a couple of shooters every time. And the service and positioning that they were getting, that Tim was getting the ball in, was terrible time after time again. And the angle of the run, I made mention of us angling back to first marker. We were sacrificing 2-3 yards every single set because of it. So it was a combination of a number of things. Whether Tim had been coached to run that direction, not sure. Whether Talon, should have pushed him wider, which personally is what I think they should be running. I hate when these props get picked off by first marker. It's a terrible, terrible work by the hooker anyway. Look, to me, he was solid, mate. He was solid, but there's still work to be done there. I think that showed a little bit on the weekend, and I'm sure if called on to do a job in short minutes in the first grade side, if we got desperate, he would do a job. But it's very easy to forget that he came up through, didn't come up through
Ron
the junior
Massey
pathways system. Yeah, but he came through from Ron Massey in New South Wales Cup into first grade last year or within the year.
Yep.
So Tim's relatively new to this level of football, and another one, like we're talking about Folletti, and there's probably a few more on this list, hopefully only continue to improve.
Well, see, I know you said there that you can't stand, that short ball off the hip running in the first marker, but I understand it, and I know why he was doing it. The issue is you need to have forwards, runners, whoever you may have, you find their front quick, and so that you can get that marker out of place and then you scoot. And I think that's what Talon was trying to do, but either the Bulldogs were holding them up and not allowing that, or they were just not quick enough to get to the ground. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But moving on to Talon, I don't think, to be perfectly frank, I think Tristan Hope absolutely schooled Talon on how to play hooker in the game. Playing with players in the second half who were less experienced than what Talon had beside him. I don't know what it was, but same thing. I was critical early of the Bulldogs being up so quick. I couldn't believe there was no inside the 10 penalties. Ridiculous. But the other side of the coin was, because we were somewhat flaccid and placid in attack, there was just, like you're talking about, fighting for that every inch to give us that advantage that becomes exponential in terms of getting rolls on and momentum, that sort of stuff as well. And that's when Talon's going to, cut teams to shreds playing off the back of momentum, like a lot of good hookers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look, it's half of one, 6 a dozen the other. Half of one, 6 dozen.
I have no idea what you're trying to refer to, so I'm going to not even be a part of it.
6 of one, half a dozen the other. Goodness me. Oh, mate. Tell you what, Tuesday evening.
I don't even know what that means.
You don't know what that saying means?
Never heard that saying before in my life.
It means 2 of the same amount, 2 of the same thing.
Okay, cool.
It's all right, mate. I'll buy you a dictionary after. It's not in there
I
either.
highly doubt that's in the dictionary.
Yeah, no, me too. It's in the book of idioms. Goodness me, we must be on the biggest tangent in the history of the podcast.
You started it.
I did. You're right. Yeah, look, I didn't walk away from that game having much more of an insight into Talon's game, to be honest. I don't think the game went his way, and I think he played limited minutes because we had 3 hookers that we wanted to rotate through. So, he wasn't great, but it doesn't particularly bother me.
Yeah, for me, it was underwhelming that game, and that's okay.
Yeah, we're going to have off games, and a few did. Tony Sukar.
I actually thought he played all right. I thought he was one of our better forwards. Seemed to play with a bit of purpose. I think he was a very clear. There was very clear improvement from last year for him. In the short stint I saw of him, we saw of him in that game.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if he starts pushing. If this trajectory goes the way that it seems to be going, because just in the short period of time from the back end of last year to that game, I've seen some pretty good improvement. I wouldn't be surprised if he's pushing for a spot in 17. So,
yeah, and considering how short we are in that area as well. Yeah, I agree. I thought he was pretty solid. He's not your flashy type of player, but 30 tackles at 100%, playing decent minutes in the second row. Yeah, quite a good effort. And what impressed me, he only did it on one, maybe 2 occasions. I did see him shoot out of the line and attempt to put hits on, which is exactly the type of thing that I want to see from a player like Tony Sukar, who is not the flashiest kick-out style edge who's going to blow teams away on the attack front. He's a relatively solid, defensively minded, I guess, edge player. So seeing him bring some attack to his defence was pleasing to see. Shows that he has another string to his bow.
Yep, I agree.
Sione made toe injury pretty early in the game, which was a shame. He's been named in the second trial, which we'll get to shortly. So hopefully it can't be too bad unless they're just waiting scans. I hardly saw anything of Sione, to be honest. So
yeah, I would. Whether the toe injury got him out too early, but I didn't see much of him at all.
He did play a few minutes. He made 14 tackles. He was there for a little while, but yeah, I don't. Much like Latu, I guess maybe is that edge to some degree.
Maybe
the game never really came his way. So
no.
Matamua
Gone.
Red line.
He's done. He's done in my book. That's a line through him now. He's one of those players now that's had every opportunity.
Yeah.
Every opportunity. And there were plenty of times I saw him be lazy in defense again. It's an attitude thing, and the attitude hasn't changed.
What's interesting is that he tackled at 100%, 34 tackles. So what is he not getting to them at all? Is it his reads or whatnot that's costing things? I didn't notice from the defensive side of things for me. It was more attack for me. He plodded around. He's not what we think of when we talk about a traditional plodder as a player, but everything was half pace. He fumbled and bumbled, and his passes didn't stick, and that was it for me, because I'm with you. I got a red line through him. I can't see it happening. He's had, like you say, countless chances. He's had multiple years post-COVID to work on development. He's been playing New South Wales Cup for a little while now. Again, maybe it's another off game, but unfortunately for Justin, that's all we've sort of seen when he's put the Tigers colours on in and around first grade.
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate because we had big hopes for him, because from a ball playing perspective, there was every hope in the world, and we were like, just give him some time. He'll learn the defensive structures. He'll improve his fitness. None of it's happened in 2-3 years. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's on his last year of his contract. I'll be very surprised if I hope they don't re-sign him.
Yeah, New South Wales Cup, 100%. Another one New South Wales Cup that I'd be happy to see go down there and give him 2-3 more years. He might come good later again. But yeah, for now, mate, yeah. Yep, couldn't agree more. Tristan Hope. Tristan, for me, best player on the field for the Tigers. He came on and he brought an intensity, and there's not much of him. Little hooker from up here. Wynnum Manly, I think. Tristan came from. Is that who he played with? Easts. No, it would have been East Tigers.
East.
Through Richo, yep. Yeah. In his late 20s, I think, Tristan. But mate, very, very impressed. Played with that intensity. He was sharp out of marker. He was very deceptive. I liked his guile. He was getting. I made the comment again in the game out loud that he was getting those props over the advantage line really, really well, noticeably better than what was happening in the first half. In defence, I saw him race up and whack somebody at some point. He was leading line speed, tackled his face off. So impressive, might I add.
How do you tackle your own face off?
I don't know, but he's got no face. He's faceless. Look on here on the stats. There's no face.
No face.
No.
What have you got? No face.
No face, mate. Tristan only came on from recollection in the second half. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. TDS played the full for
top the tackle count. 35 tackles.
Yeah. Look,
very impressive game. Well done.
Yeah, I can't dispute that. For me, he wasn't my best player. I'll talk about that in a minute, but he was good. He was good. Do you know what he looked like for me? And it's probably because it is true. He looked like a player that's like, this is my last shot, and I need to give it everything I have.
Yeah.
And remember, it was the same thing with Andrew Davey over in Manly a couple of years ago. It was his last shot, gave it everything he had, scored a 3-year contract with the Eels. So,
yeah,
honestly, it's like sometimes they're the type of players, Cody Walker did it as well at the Bunnies, and look what he's made of his career. I think we're stacked in hookers. I don't think he'll stick around with us, but I will not be surprised based on that and based on he will do the exact same thing in New South Wales Cup, and if he gets an NRL debut, he'll do the same thing. I would not be surprised if he's picked up by another club next year.
Yeah, absolutely. If not top 30, then a training trial or something. Who knows? He's played one trial with us, one half of footy, but super impressive.
It's the intensity. It's the intensity that that's something you don't train. It's what you have.
I agree. It's something I notice in particular. I'm always banging on about the ability to shift momentum. There's only one thing that shifts momentum, and that's intensity. You need to change whatever intensity your team is playing at. It's the only way you break momentum artificially. Spencer Leniu does it all the time. Royce Hunt would do it for the Sharks. Braden Hamlin, Ueli. They did it through the middle. Tristan he just brought it. It was unreal. And it wasn't a coincidence that the Tigers roared back into the game and pushed in front in the time that he was on the paddock. He played so well that when Haywood had to come on to get a bit of time at hooker, Benji left him on in the middle. He just played him in and around the middle of some sort of roving lock roll. So, now banged on about Tristan a fair bit now, but very, very, very impressive. So well done, mate. That was awesome. What a debut. Well, club debut of sorts.
Club debut of sorts. Yeah, well, let's say a debut. It's fine.
Kit Laulaliti.
Probably one of my surprise packets.
Tale of two halves, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the first half, I could have very easily just gone another Matamua, another option, another. But he flipped a switch in the second half, didn't he ever?
Yeah.
So,
and in big part again to the service of Hope, getting him over the advantage line that second half. The way that Kit runs the football. He's in behind that first marker. If Hope takes that first marker out, he's in behind him. So quick.
And that's it. Like, yeah, maybe it is sort of a product of the second half environment, but he was 100% a different player in the second half. If he played that whole game that way, he would have been my standout. He would have been my player of the game.
You know what I liked about Kit, particularly in that second stance, is he looked like a man who was pissed off with his first and went out there to make amends and went looking for work.
Yeah.
I think there was multiple sets where he took more than one carry in the second half. So this is a bloke who he wants to impress and he wants to go after the game, and I like seeing that. And it's in many ways similar to the intensity we're talking about with Hope.
Yep. No, and like that's kind of what we saw from Kit back end of 2023. Just that just aggression, and it was like a need to prove himself back then. And then it just seemed like that dipped off a little bit last year. Maybe it was didn't feel he needed to prove himself anymore. And then that first half started like that, but the second half was back to the kit that we came to really enjoy at the end of 2023. And I just need to prove myself again.
Yeah,
I mean, that's probably a big thing for a lot of young footballers. You can't prove yourself in one game. You prove yourself over multiple seasons, and you don't stop. I mean, probably in my eyes, one of the greatest footballers of our generation in Cameron Smith never stopped. Always proved himself in every single game. And this is coming from a true blue New South Welshman. I hate saying it, but it's true. He is.
Yeah. Still 19 as well. Once again, another one
Cameron
that's easy
Smith.
to forget.
No, he's retired.
Kit Lely.
I thought that was funny.
Well, as long as you thought it, mate. What I thought we might do is you're probably going to mention your favourite player in a moment. We'll touch on him. We'll touch on another name. And then we'll briefly rush through the others because we are getting a bit long in the tooth. We've got to talk about the second trial quickly.
Yep.
We don't want to bend people's ears for too long. Mate, I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say that your top player was... Ooh, I've just had a last-minute nervousness. Sakura.
Yeah, Sakura. If you had said Rami, I would have thrown you under a bus.
I was going to say Brodolo was the other one I was going to mention.
Brodolo did all right, but for me, Sakura was phenomenal. He was only on for a short period of time, but my God, he ran with intensity. He defended hard. He defended well, slid well, got in their face. I was so impressed with him. So impressed. So by far, he was my pick, and it's sort of annoyed me that he didn't get picked for this one, but that's okay.
That's right. Again, another player who's only 20. He only just turned 20 a couple of months ago, so lots of time on their side. Rami, Craig, Brodolo, Tennis, Tino Tavana, Max Lyles, Jared Haywood, and Noah Johansson. Quite a few. Of probably that next tier down in terms of being on the fringes. I'm just going to throw a couple of comments out. I thought Brodolo did a good job in extended minutes, obviously with Sione coming off with that injury.
Yep.
One defensive area, which I'd mentioned in the past for listeners who remember Brodolo's name. Good little second rower up and comer. I think he's a development deal next year, maybe, possibly. I might be wrong there. But I thought he did quite a good job. Defensively outside of that, I thought he was pretty solid and carried the ball. He looked dangerous. Outside of that, I didn't mind Tino Tavana. I thought he looked pretty dangerous himself as well. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I think out of that list, it's hard to go past those two. And I thought Haywood really sort of, when he came on, it was sort of two different hookers at two different times. When you had Hope come on, it was all about the service. It's all about getting over the advantage line, where Haywood was more about looking for that opportunity to scoot. And he made quite a few meters from dummy half, if I remember, like a few scoots.
Made a break, didn't he? Full break.
Couple, I think.
Up the middle, yeah.
So probably those three, I think, stood out for me. For the rest, there's a couple that, like you said, they're probably on the next tier. Probably still got a little bit of growing to do. Tannis, I think, obviously still SG Ball. I think he's still only 18, 19.
He'd be 18, I think.
He was for me, his game looked a lot like Luke Brooks. Get to the fifth, end over end kick. Get to the fifth, end over end kick. For a 19-year-old, you got to develop anyway, so that's fine, but he's still got some growing to do, still got some developing to do. Haywood, I think, the same thing, growing and developing, but he's showed glimpses of what he can do. I don't think Max Lyles will get a real big run at all. I didn't see anything that impressed me from him. Will Craig, I think he's been in our system for a while now, and again, caught out of position a few times, kick returns, all that jazz. Probably another one that I wouldn't think we should offer him another contract after this year.
Yeah. Yep. Mate, that's a big run through, and that's a lot of names that would be somewhat unfamiliar to a few of our listeners anyway. But yeah, some good, some bad, some ugly. But let's push ahead. We'll jump into talking about this upcoming trial. Obviously, won't be anywhere near as long. We're already 50 minutes in, so we play obviously Parramatta, Leichhardt Oval, on Friday evening.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got 7 p.m. here. Is that going to be Queensland time?
Yes, I think that's Queensland.
Yes, so I'm
time.
assuming it's 8 and 8 o'clock kickoff would be my guess.
Yep.
So very jealous of the people down there going to that trial. Anyway, this is how the side lines up. We have Mason at fullback, Skelton and Staines are the wings. Stafford Tua and Brent Naden are the 3 and 4. Galvin is 6. Adam Dewey is the 7. Terrell May and Fanua Pole are the props. Talon De Silva is the hooker. Fainu and Seafarth, who has been named captain, are the edge players with Twal at lock. We've then got an interchange bench, of Latu, Royce Hunt, Jack Bird, Sione Fainu has been named. And then we have Hope, Sukar, Kit Lelei, and Solomon Fa'atape. It appears as though those last 4 names are also a few that we mentioned played quite well on the weekend. So they're probably in and around that lineup or that second, third drop for the positions they play. Mate, not the team I guess we were hoping for. We obviously wanted to see a few of our bigger guys, but I think cotton wool is the situation and the aim of the game for the moment. That being Buller, Appy, Taruva, and obviously Luai, not named for this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what more I can add to that.
Only that there's a few missing. Any interesting selections in there?
I think probably the most obvious one is Dewey at halfback.
Yep. What's the go there, do you think?
I said it in our group chat. I personally, and I could be completely wrong, and generally I am, but I think it is Benji's way of putting Dewey out in front of people to potentially get him off the books and sign somewhere else as a half. Because we're not going to use him in the halves. There's no way that's going to happen unless we're absolutely desperate. But there are clubs out there that need a quality half. And in his day, he can be a very quality half. So for me, I think that's what it is. I honestly believe that he's trying to get Dewey out there in front of coaches who may need a half or even a backup half and probably get him a longer deal. Because it's probably unlikely we're going to re-sign him after this year.
Yes, that's true. There's a few schools of thought on that. My thought process might be he's just a stand-in for this, and the focus is him just to play a very simple game. Basically, he's a fill-in for Luai. I think they're using as an opportunity to have a shootout for the centre position, Toa and Naden, outside of Olam. I'm not sure how they plan on using Dewey moving forward. Centre's likely, but we've spoken ad nauseum about his defensive issues. And at this point, is it really going to change? Probably not. So I might suggest he might play a pretty simple game, but I may be wrong. So then outside him, Latu and Galvin, whilst won't be having a shootout, obviously Galvin's got the inside running on that, absolutely. It'll give them a chance to maybe have some decent time with decent players around them, possibly.
Maybe. It's, again, no one knows what's going through the head of Benji. It is an odd one for the Dewey one. Makes perfect sense for the centres. I agree with that. I think it's probably a shootout for that other spot. And honestly, I think Naden had an absolute perler in the All-Stars. As soon as he came on, they looked different. They looked different. They looked stronger. But yeah, another one that's kind of, and touching it very, very quickly is the front row. And more notably, who is missing. So obviously Clemmer dropped out of the first trial and hasn't been named in this one. And now the Daily Telegraph have come out saying that it's likely he's played his last game for us. For no other reason that just to get him, we're stacked with forwards and to get him off our books. He's been one of the best trainers, been one of the best, most consistent. but he is getting on in age, and we have this youth coming through. So how that eventuates, who knows? But that's just an interesting one, personally. And also another interesting one is Seyfarth as captain. Really? Okay.
Oh, they love him. They just re-signed him for 3 years. They love the big red.
Hey, we both agreed that he was dramatically improved last year.
Yeah, and if he keeps getting better and better, there won't be too much to whinge about very soon about Alex. So hopefully that day comes soon.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you compared him last year to a golden retriever, and it's hard to deny that. He's a ball of energy, but sometimes doesn't know where his tail is.
Trips over his own feet sometimes.
So if he can channel that,
yep,
he actually might be one of our best forwards.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, look, it is interesting. The forwards do look, as I just said, interesting. What I'm not sure about it is why Pole is at 10 and Twal at 13. If they're seeing Alex Twal as a legitimate 13 option, I've got grave reservations about any game plan around that. I don't understand what the play is there. If you're going to play a heavy, big middle, you play Pole, who has the manoeuvrability, the lateral movement, and the passing ability. You don't play Alex Twal.
So I have a theory about this.
Yeah, go.
It is a trial.
Yep.
Parramatta have big boys. I think we will see Jack Bird at 13 in that first round one.
Yep.
But it's kind of a cotton wool situation. Twal takes out the intensity of this trial match because, again, I'll reiterate, it's just a trial. And then when that sting is out, Jack Bird comes on, and then we play the game plan around a ball playing lock. That's my theory.
So how's this? Very similar to what you're talking about, which was something I suggested and we spoke about last year, which was we could play Bird on the bench every week in the NRL, as well as a 14, like a Latu or a Talon, and play Pole at lock to start to exactly what you're talking about, to play a heavy middle, take the sting out of the game, and then Bird comes in for the last 60 or so, or thereabouts. And then Pole pushes into that prop rotation. So that's basically what you're saying with Twal in place. So yeah. Look, if that's the case, I'm all for that. I think that's a great game plan. We did talk about that at the back end of last year as a possible option for Bird. So it'd be interesting to see how and when they use him. But I agree. I think he'll spend a fair bit of time at lock eventually. I just don't know why Twal isn't your starting prop and Pole your lock. But maybe I'm just splitting hairs.
Probably, if you think about the intensity that May and Pole have as a 1-2 punch, maybe that's it.
Yeah, possibly.
I guess
they're all middles at the end of the day.
And we're all we're watching another Tigers game 5 days after we watched the first one. How good's that?
Outstanding, mate. Do you want to give a bold prediction playing against Parramatta? Their side is a little bit softer, like ours is, missing a few key players themselves. Obviously, with Brown and Moses not playing, among a few others.
Off the back of what I saw from the All-Stars, my bold prediction is Naden will cement that spot.
That's a good call.
He has, I think, from all reports, and we've read, like, you can only go with what you read. He, like you said, we've said it at least half a dozen times now. Everyone says that he's really matured, came with a great attitude. I don't think it's going to be, based on what I saw at the All-Stars, I don't think it's going to be passing on in the wind. I think it's going to be solidified, that attitude, and I think he's going to cement that spot.
Okay. Well, I hope so. He was outstanding in that game.
He was.
Yeah. And once again with Naden in that situation, it was back to intensity. He chased the game, he went after the game, and he didn't leave anything to chance and played like he wanted to be in that jumper. And hopefully it's the same back in Tigers colours. And that is what we've heard over the off-season. But we often hear things over the off-season that don't end up being true. My
No.
bold prediction. Good question. I haven't thought too hard about that. I mean, I agree with you. Based upon what we've seen thus far, I think Naden has a bit of an inside running from that performance. Goodness me, bold. I just don't know how bold I can be here. I hope Tristan Hope gets a decent crack again. And short of having a prediction, I'll just say what I would like to see. I'd like to see him get on and have a decent crack against what is probably a stronger, or definitely a stronger Parramatta side as opposed to what he faced last week against the Bulldogs. Yeah,
I have a feeling you're going to be a big Tristan Hope fan this year.
Yeah, I'm just going off a performance. If he keeps playing like that and playing with that intensity, that's what really made me notice him in that game. So, yeah, I'm all for it. Fingers crossed. Bold prediction. Here you go. I'll give you one. Seafarth will have a blinder as captain on an edge and score a try.
Okay. On Naden's edge.
There you go.
There you go.
Thanks for adding that.
Hey, we right side, strong side.
It was the cherry on top. Friday evening, the Tigers play Parramatta Eels down at Leichhardt Oval. There's a double header down there from memory. I can't remember what the first game is, but I'm sure there will be everybody in and around the area will be chomping at the bit to get in there.
Just for anyone that is down there, and then anyone that doesn't know, I'm just reading this now. If kids under 15 years old get in for free with a paying adult, so you got kids, just buy you a ticket and the kid goes for free. That's pretty good.
Load them up. Yeah, take them to the best place on earth. Like, seriously.
God's country.
Yeah, and even if they're not Tigers fans, all the more reason, take them. Wash that, get rid of that red and, Cardinal and Myrtle nonsense, or the blue and white rubbish they might be wearing. Penrith, yuck. Bring them down to Leichhardt. That'll sort them right out. Looking forward to the game, mate. Should be good.
Oh, yeah. And it's at a time on a Friday night when, you know what, I can actually sit back. Kids are bathed, kids are in bed. I can sit back and watch it. Good times.
Lucky you. I've got a farewell that evening, so I'm going to have to catch what I can and probably watch the replay on Saturday, unfortunately. But that's all right. I'll enjoy it on Saturday.
That's your fault. Why are you going to a farewell on a Tigers game? That's silly.
Well, mate, when you care for people and you care for other people and, you're sad to see them go, often you show that through, showings of respect and gifts and that sort of thing as well. So, I don't expect you to understand, but that's okay.
Not really.
That's it. All right, very good. Mate, PSAs for the evening. You can find us, as always, on Facebook, Instagram, Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. West Tigers Media, we always recommend West Tigers Podcast, West Tigers Live Podcast, and West Tigers Faithful Podcast. Follow the Ambush on Facebook. Get on over to the West Tigers Forum and follow that as well. Thanks to our sponsors, our loyal sponsors, Best on Ground Digital, bestongrounddigital.com, the digital marketing agency that looks after the little guy. They will not steer you wrong, bestongrounddigital.com. Thanks to them as always. Toby, mate, that is another one in the books. Is that number 4 for this year? Is that right? Number 4?
I think so, yeah.
And I think we're up to a big juicy 97 episodes.
We're so close to that 100, which is just unfathomable, really.
It is. It is. We'll probably have a bit of a reflection when it comes to that, but depending on how and when the 100th comes, it's 3 episodes away. I'm thinking, and I'm just doing my sums, I think it might land prior to our round 1 game. Do I have that correct?
No. You have that wrong.
Is it after our round 1 game?
Yeah.
Ah, what a shame. Maybe we'd squeeze 2 in. Do our season preview. We'll see how we go.
Well, I think leading up to that, I'm going to listen to some of our first podcasts and see how we used to do compared to now.
Yeah, probably much better.
That could be that could be cringeworthy.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we are working on it. Give us another 6 or 7 years, we might be able to become enjoyable to listen to. But as always, we love your support. Thank you very much for tuning in. It means the world. Leave your comments, leave your questions, any corrections. We often and do, not deliberately, but we do make many mistakes on this show. So if you have any corrections for us, please shoot over to the socials and correct us. We'll happily thank you for it. Outside of that, mate, looking forward to the footy once again. Love saying that phrase.
So good.
I'm going to miss it in 2 weeks, but then it'll come roaring straight on back. So time to dust off all the jerseys, especially my new one, and maybe talk next week. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've got something to recap next week.
Sounds good to me. As always, mate, go the mighty West Tigers.
Up the Tigers.